Great. So how do you create urgency in a fundraise? It just seems like it takes a long time to get people, moving on it. What can you do to kind of spark that interest to get it done now rather than later, in
It,
addition to the swag you talked about?
I think the problem is that everybody puts something on there and they don't really understand who's supposed to be leading the dance. This is if you're a founder, if you're an investment manager, a real estate syndicator, you control this, right? You control the terms. I think sometimes they let the investors control that. And every time I see this, and even in like open-ended funds, which are technically open-ended, don't have any deadlines, you can get creative there. But for real estate and founders, what I like to do is I like to use deadlines. And I can tell you how many pitch books I've seen where there's no deadline. It's just the date, which is dated already. It goes, it's like, here's my presentation. It's what, June right now. You'll see it's like from December 2022. They haven't updated. That's one red flag. But even then it says, well, you're not really serious about it, but you have to compel them for a reason. And you always have to start out with a deadline. Nobody ever uses a deadline. It's really, the first rule of negotiation is to use a deadline, and nobody really thinks to do that. And it's kind of, it's really interesting because every time I see a deck or something, I never know what happens next. Nobody tells them the call to action. If you want to invest, first tranche closes July 1st. After that, you don't get as much. And what you do is then we get into another strategy that you do on top of that, and you tranche it, right? So, oh, Hal, sorry you couldn't make it in the first tranche. Anyway, you can still invest, but you're not getting the same warrants and the discount that the first tranche people have gotten, but you can still invest. And by the way, you're not going to get the Patagonia vest either with a company name on it, but at least you can tell people you're involved into this deal. And now all of a sudden, like, oh, no, hold on. And of course you put them in, at some point you don't want to have them abuse you, but you always put them into the first tranche. But you have to stack it so that all the goodies are up front for them to move fast rather than later on down the line. Does that make sense?
Absolutely.